Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
And I'm Kristin.
And this is why I'm watching Desperate Housewives, Season 1, Episode 12.
Every day a little death.
I think this is another kind of medium episode.
Yeah.
We are spending time with these people, getting to know them, letting the plot sort of come in and out, be what it is. One thing that I do like a lot, actually, is how we've talked about Martha Huber and how she was an interesting character for this show. And I do like that, considering they tapped her out, what many could say early, that it has at least been a thing. Like, It's been a major event for the show.
And we're still talking about her.
Yeah. Well, Kristin was in this episode. We got kind of her flashback. It kind of becomes a rite of passage as people leave the show, because people die on the show. Mary Alice sort of sends them off with a poignant note.
Martha Huber waited her whole life for something to happen to her. Something exciting.
Martha lived an unremarkable life and kept waiting for, that one thing, that one exciting thing.
Her.
And unfortunately, that thing here was
getting murdered.
Luckily for Mrs. Huber, death was far more merciful.
So this is the episode where everybody did find out.
Yeah, they find her body at the beginning.
they find her body, and then we have a montage of the people finding out. Weirdly, Felicia took it very hard.
I'm afraid I have some bad news for you. We found your sister's body.
Which is weird, because she
was already so certain.
Announced upon her arrival that she was dead. But I guess she didn't really take it that hard. I like her little thing about how all the people were there because they wanted the details.
Yeah.
Look at them all. Vultures. Pretending to care when all they really want are the sordid details.
I don't know. I think they just want to show their support.
Please. Human beings feed on misery. Well, we might as well give the people what they want. Hello. I want to thank you all for coming out here and expressing your genuine sorrow and disbelief. My sister Martha would have been so touched. I know that many of you have questions. I've just spoken with the police, who are still putting together the details of what happened. What they do know is Martha died a violent death.
Oh.
Yes, I know. It's hard to hear. Apparently, there was a struggle. They found scratching and bruising on her body, several broken bones, and traces of dirt in her lungs. Which leads us to believe that she was still alive at the time of her burial and probably in great pain.
I think it's very important to the show that the show does have a wicked sense of humor, but it balances it really nice. And I do like that was just Felicia's perspective of what was happening. And I like that
because the cop was weirdly less cynical and was like, I think they just want to be nice.
Well, and I mean, I think that there's a good mixture. I mean, when something like this happens, yes, I do want to know some of the details because it helps me understand. It helps me sort of process.
Yeah, but literally the way at the end she was like,
but the good news is there are no signs that she had been molested.
Doesn't appear she was molested.
Who is Felicia?
Her name is Harriet Sansom Harris. She's fantastic.
She's a character actress. I've seen her do. She plays this character
a lot.
Oh, yeah. It's a very interesting note to in general and to kind of sort of start the show on.
Yeah.
And then just have it.
Well, because that's not even the last thing she says. The last thing she says, oh, in lieu of a memorial, we'll be having an estate sale the day after tomorrow.
Please, no personal checks.
Amazing.
Well,
and she wags her finger. No personal checks.
I know you're gonna try it.
Yeah, very funny.
Well, it does put the onus of grieving Martha on Edie, which frankly is I think, development that Edie needs.
Well, I also think, like, so yes, you're correct about that from like a television show standpoint, but from like a real person standpoint, it also just like makes so much sense that they were each other's only friends, because both of them are so unappealing as people. Like, from the outside looking in, you know, Martha is just a neighborhood busybody who like uses gossip as currency, and Edie trades on her looks, and she doesn't, you know, she's like potentially a successful realtor, but she doesn't really have much going for her other than that. And she can't make female friends because they're all threatened by her with their husbands. And so, I don't know, I find it very interesting how deep their connection ran. And it really is because they were the only ones they had.
Yeah, they both were unlikable in a certain way.
Yeah.
That sort of limited their appeal.
Yeah, for sure. I find it interesting.
Yeah, I do. And so we have introduced the girls' poker game. We've done
it before.
Yeah. But this was the first time that like a conversation was made about it, that it is a thing that they do on Tuesdays. It is a potluck.
You're all here.
Yeah, Tuesday is poker day.
Really?
Edie is not invited and they don't want her there.
Yeah.
And I think that is interesting. It implies that there's history before the show started.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's good. That it as nice as it can be for the audience to join a show and think that everything is just starting, I like the notion of the shared history there.
Yeah. It's actually, if I'm being honest, it's one of the things I liked the best about Pretty Little Liars was like the flashbacks, because it's like we can tell they've been friends because we're getting the flashbacks, but also it's just like the way they operate around each other. You can tell they've known each other for years. And it's like, there's obviously lots of shows that do that, but that's the first one that came to mind, a group of women.
Well, and we've talked about this a lot because there was a girl I worked with at the salon who was very much an Edie type. And once I understood that, I found her very easy to be friends with.
Yeah.
And it's like, Edie is prickly. She says things that can be abrupt or rude or off-putting, but it's so to be expected that I'm sort of like, I mean, you kind of go through the motions already for each other.
Yeah.
Like, they tolerate Gabby's vanity. They tolerate, you know.
They
and
tolerate Bree's, like, anal retentiveness.
They tolerate
like, yeah.
Susan. So there's a part of me where I'm just...
Susan's whole thing.
I'm a mess.
But to be fair, that's part of your charm.
Honest to God, Lynette is the only one of them that's relatively normal. And even she made everyone think her son had cancer in this episode just so she could go to yoga.
She allowed people to continue believing
she had
that
to
he
know.
might be sick in a way that could be...
She had to know that was going to backfire. And now she can't go to yoga.
It's a part of me that's Lynette's whole plot. She wants to go to yoga, and one of them,
I think it's Parker.
Parker is sick just with a cold, and because his brothers get gum stuck in his hair, they have to shave his head.
Yeah.
So it looks like he is like sick.
Like terminally.
There you go. I knew there was a fancy word.
Also, like, she only shaved his head after trying for seemingly many minutes of harshly combing, ripping the gum out of his hair.
Flower gleaming glow, let your power shine, make the clock reverse, bring back once was mine. Hey, feel what has been heard, change your faith's design.
Which I think is child abuse. I had a very tender head
Yeah.
when I was growing up, and I had like a boar bristle plastic brush, and I swear to God, it got more severe every time I used to tell this story. But my mom would take the brush, like smack it on my head, and just yank it all the way to the bottom. Horrible, like truly horrible.
You should have seen how Jenny, her
mom?
Yeah.
Was it like that?
Jenny had one of the iron, a scalp made out of just pure titanium, the way her mother would like she was hoeing a garden.
I had a very tender scalp, and also my hair is so fine and thin. You didn't need to be yanking it that hard, Mom.
So
I can make a really dark joke right now.
There's part of me that I think if it weren't Parker's life,
Yeah.
and then cancer being the word that we don't say. I think if it weren't those two things, I wish Lynette would have doubled down. Like, I think that would have been really funny for her.
Well, okay. The other thing too is she could have been like, we haven't told him yet. Like,
that's what I mean. Like, I think.
Okay, no, because let's talk about
Lauren.
Let's talk about the C word and who we should call that.
I'll leave when I'm good and ready.
Because her name is Lauren.
What is the C word we're not saying? What specifically?
Because her name is Lauren, and she was truly the worst ever.
I'm here for the 10 a.m. yoga meditation class.
Unfortunately, the daycare center's full. It's a popular class, and the other moms come early. Look, all I can tell you is plan ahead next time.
And the implication
I don't have time to read my magazine. Bitch, you're at work.
Because I was going to say, the implication is that this is not the first time Lynette has tried to go to this class. So regardless. And then Lauren does take it upon herself to invite this other woman into.
Sure. Because the other thing, though, about Lauren is that she's a hypocrite. And like I said, in our watch along, if you'd like to watch along with us, patreon.com/soimwatching, so I'm watching this show. She only has empathy for Lynette when she thinks her son is dying.
Oh my God.
What?
When you said you had a sick child, I had no idea.
Oh. No. See, here's the thing.
You go ahead into class. I'll find room for your kids.
Okay.
You're not a good person if you only have empathy when death is on the line.
There's an entire Maria Bamford bit about this.
No.
About going to yoga, and a woman who got there early to get the good spot was wearing a shirt that said empathy or something.
No.
And Maria came in late and she was like...
And unfortunately for her, she had a t-shirt on with font large enough for me to read it. The word compassion. Oh shit, you gotta scoot the mat, biatch.
You truly, because she's like, because I loved Lynette's line too, is she was like, I hope one day you have lots of babies. Unacceptable behavior. If there's a rule, but then you can't add your own 2 cents onto it. You should really plan ahead. You should shove your head up your ass. Get out of here. You work in a front-facing industry. You can't be just sitting there reading your magazine. Unacceptable. I want Lauren in a hole.
It's not real.
I don't care.
You want her fired.
Horrible.
So again, I do character informing, and I do like that when the jig is up for Lynette, it is just truly up.
Yeah, she just leaves.
And so she just is like,
Mommy, am I dying?
No, you're not dying. People just think that because I shaved your head. Sorry.
And just like that, Lynette realized the road to enlightenment and spiritual well-being was now closed to her.
now let's go. And then she works out at home.
Yeah.
I was like, would you rather talk about Gabby and Carlos or Bree and...
Okay, well, let's start with Bree. Magically, Rex jumped up my husband's list because he wasn't in this episode, except for his hand in the window. And also, Carlos plummeted straight through hell to the other side of the world.
Okay, so Bree is still, well, she is dating George, but her heart's gone out on it.
Well, her heart was never in on it, but also George does not understand that a game is being played.
Mm-hmm. She doesn't really either. Well, she does now by this point.
Well,
I think Bree wanted, like, I think she was able to identify that he was handsome.
Sure.
And he seems
friendly.
But he seems to have her particular brand of
nutso bananas.
Yeah, anal retentive, or like they seem like they would go together, and so I think Bree is largely like, oh, perfect. That will just logic this into existence.
Well, the other thing too, for me, is that I sort of feel like Bree got very used to running roughshod over Rex, and so I think she believes she just has that power, when in reality, she has that power over Rex. She doesn't just have that power. I believe she could hone that so that she did just have it, but I think she's unaware of really what she's doing to George, which is very obviously making him fall in love with her. And I think she also, even once she realizes that he believes himself to be in love with her, I think she thinks that she's able to nip it in the bud. And she's
so
just not.
But there's two issues, though. There's two. The issue one is him being in love with her in a way that she does not reciprocate.
Yeah.
Which she gets there at the halfway point. Issue two is that he is unstable.
Yeah.
So she thinks she's handled this.
Yeah.
The only situation that she's aware of. She doesn't know that she's got a big storm coming.
Yeah.
It's nice to have a friend.
That is a Bree special. It stays happening.
Yeah, he at the end is like watching videos, security videos from the pharmacy of them interacting with each other.
While eating presumably a steak on a like massive pillow of rice.
So much risotto.
It was what could only be called a mound.
A mound of risotto. It's like yogurt commercials. They're always eating like a cereal bowl that's like to the brim full of yogurt. And I'm like, that is too much yogurt. You're only gonna, and a thing of Chobani, that's gonna give you 2 servings of yogurt if you're serving it like that. And then there's always fruit and granola on top. And I'm like, I don't get it.
We did get, I think this is her first interaction with the gun. I think we've mentioned the NRA before.
George, this is a 9mm Luger P08.
You know, I have a lot kind of that I want to say about it. I don't know if now is exactly the time. Well, she has at least 2 more scenes where she's holding guns.
Well, it's apparently a very fancy mother of pearl handle.
I like
antique German Luger. I mean, it's
hard to talk politics in the year 2023, and so it's like I like the whimsical television version of conservative that Bree is, and they are at least depicting it like she has a genuine interest, appreciation, and respect for the object and the tool that a handgun is.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that Bree is one of these, like, AR-15, like, you know what I mean?
No,
like,
however, there are implications given that it is a World War II German gun.
but those are on George. Those aren't on Bree.
That's true, but she is very touched by it.
Well, it has history. I refuse.
Wrong side history.
No, I refuse.
No.
Bree is not.
Bree's not a Nazi.
Anyways, I find that stuff interesting, noteworthy.
Are we going to Gabby?
Carlos, yeah.
Carlos is in the garbage. He is hard in the garbage this week. So now he's home on house arrest. He's bored and he wants a baby. And Gabby, okay. It's the thing specifically when Gabby said, "You promised me no babies." She said that, which means they discussed that before they were married. No babies.
He's also, any time that this conversation has come up, it has never been in a, I want to talk about this thing.
It's just like, we're going to make a baby.
As equals, let's discuss it.
Yeah.
He's very much like, I've decided I changed my mind. As my wife, you need to get on board.
Absolutely not. And the way, like, invoking your mother who's still in a coma by saying, do you know what would really cheer her up when she wakes up? A baby. And Gabby is like, no.
Also, and this is not the most despicable thing he does in the episode, but it's despicable in a way that's worth noting. He's only pretending to clean. Like,
yeah, what the fuck?
It would be one thing if he's trying to manipulate her into doing this thing.
Look at all the chores I can do to help you out with the baby.
So it'd be one thing if he was doing that to manipulate her. It's another to do what he's doing, which is pretend to do that. Make her think he's helping.
Yeah. And in addition to that, I don't understand why he can't say whatever the end result of this is, or like, if I get off these charges, I want to talk about having a baby. Because right now he's like, I'm bored. Let's make a baby.
It'll fix.
And then 50-50, I'm going to federal prison for 5 years.
Because that's what his angle in this episode is he's afraid, or he feels like she's going to leave him.
You know that she can still leave you even if you have a baby, right? You know that's possible. Also, she is working 10-hour days again, doing these modeling jobs for not very much money, bringing home Kentucky Fried Chicken, which she hilariously takes out of the house and across the street so he can see her eating it, but can't come closer because he has an ankle monitor. Brilliant.
My favorite is the curly fry.
Love it. She's eating it like grapes. 10 out of 10. No notes. So
that's one of the things that Eva Longoria is good at with her comedy. So
what we'll pick up with then is when he is pretending to vacuum, which I guess he gets 4 square feet done, I guess. As soon as she's out of the house, going to do another job, that's the only thing bringing in money right now because his accounts still have not been unfrozen. He stops vacuuming, and then he picks up the phone, calls the pharmacy, and asks to get a bunch of her birth control prescription filled and delivered to the house. And then we see him opening it, peeling back the foil, which, I mean, that's the only thing I'll give him props on. I don't know how the fuck you do that. That's insane. And putting in placebo pills. Unacceptable. Straight to jail. If not for the RICO charges, then for this. That is so despicable. Messing with your partner's birth control. Don't ever do it. That's essentially rape. I'm not here for it.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I don't think ages.
No. Mm-mm. Well,
because it's worse than.
It's not even that it doesn't age. People still do that. People legitimately do that.
Because I was gonna be like, it's worse than fucking Stevie saw a ghost in Hill House. Stevie.
Oh yeah. Freaking Stevie.
Michael Weissman.
That's like the opposite.
But yeah. It's deceiving your partner.
Yeah.
When it comes to
with regards to fertility,
which is a real hot button for you.
Unacceptable. It's just so unacceptable. And the thing that makes it so unacceptable is that it's not even like Gabby is on the fence about it. She is
firmly.
You promised no babies. She is firmly against this. And so now
it's not like
you're gonna get her pregnant by accident.
I was gonna say it's not like she got pregnant and then they were like, what are we gonna do with this? Yeah.
He is deliberately trying to make her become pregnant, and I can't abide. It's so horrible. Just totally removing the choice and just reproductive freedom. I hate it.
So that does bring us back to where we started, which was with Edie and Martha's remains.
Yeah.
Because Felicia Tillman is Felicia Tillman, because she is the way that she is, this leaves it to Edie to do it and to handle the memorial. And
yeah, I have a big problem because she interrupts the poker game and then she's like, I love playing poker.
Oh, I love poker. Okay, then.
And they all look away, and she's like, well, fine, then. She reads a room, at least. Edie knows how to read a room. And she's like, so, it's left to me to dispose of Martha's ashes, and I'm going to take it up to the lake. I'm going to do a whole thing. Who wants to come? And they all look away again and then make up excuses. And first of all, I only sort of believe Gabby, and I don't believe the other two who are like, oh, I have things to do. And then only Susan is like, I'm busy with stuff. And so she ends up deciding to go.
Well, because the issue is that Martha wrote everything down.
She kept diaries.
And Felicia, the cops want the diaries.
Yeah.
And so Susan's afraid that they'll find out that she burned Edie's house down. That's a plot that worked for me much more when I was 18, because now I'm with you where I'm like, it's the ramblings of a mad woman. God knows what she wrote in those.
Also, she's dead, and literally maybe it makes me a bad person, but if I'm Susan and the cops are like, did you burn down Edie Britt's house? She'd be like, no, what the hell? Absolutely not.
Because I was going to say, what you pointed out, you were
what
like...
What about this measuring cup? Who keeps track of... who the fuck? Ah.
Well, you pointed out that we were like, okay, yes, technically Susan's actions are what led to the fire that started, but Edie was upstairs with a gentleman caller
a man.
while there were, Gatsby level billowing curtains.
Drapes and tons of lit taper candles everywhere.
Susan just got the show on the road.
Yeah.
They were heading that direction.
But also, I just sort of for me, it's if I'm Susan, if I don't confess the night it happens, oh my God, I'm so sorry I came over.
To the grave.
I am taking that shit to, literally to the grave. I am never telling another living soul about that.
Oh, that ship sailed.
way far away.
People are going to start telling the truth around here. I'm going home.
It's like that John Mulaney where he's like, I'll tell the truth if everybody promises to get real cool about a bunch of stuff in the next couple minutes. And it's just I just can't. I can't. It's so ridiculous. Again, like I said, maybe that makes me a bad person for just being no.
And the scenes are very shticky in a comedy way that is fun.
Because also for me, the Susan's sort of not really desire, but her need that she feels to tell Edie the truth at this point to somehow combat the information in the diary, just because she makes it cool with Edie, let's say the cops do decide to, just because Edie's cool with it doesn't mean the cops are going to be cool with it.
And it's like, you're not doing the right thing because you're doing it so that
you don't get in trouble.
It's it's not.
It just doesn't make any sense.
It's not a good showing.
And Edie is just finally getting her check cut from the insurance companies. It's just throwing a wrench in everything. It's just very selfish of Susan.
Well, because it really is. Because that's why I started to say that Nicolette Sheridan has gone full Miss Piggy at this point.
A little.
She's like,
Are you okay?
crying in this boat.
In the middle of this, that they drove 90 miles to get to.
I did like the information that we get about both of them, particularly Edie, but because if you want to watch along with us, Edie's like, you were a cheerleader or something, right? And
I had a full spit take.
You started to fight it at first, but I'm like, no, Susan is conventionally attractive, and she's malleable. She's a go along with the flow type. I don't think she was a queen bee.
Sure, I accept it, but
I said think more Gretchen Wieners.
Because I have kind of a huge problem with, for me, Susan she has too much deep-seated insecurity to have been popular in high school. It just doesn't seem like it doesn't feel like it checks out.
I think it's more open than that. I think,
but I'll allow the Gretchen Wieners style.
I think she probably assimilated. She probably fit in with the cool girls because she does. But I find it illuminating, and then. Because it's similarly with Edie, when Edie's like, I hung out with the goth kids and the freaks and stuff.
That checks to me 100%.
Well, because at first you're kind of like, no. And then you're like, yeah, actually, that's exactly what would.
Well, I think I was spot on. Because she's beautiful. Nicolette Sheridan, Edie Britt is beautiful. And she...
in a very specific, conventional way.
And I feel like she probably was more personable when she was young, but now she's got this sort of shell built around her because of this specifically. But my interpretation is that she wanted to fuck in high school, and the popular kids were like, ew. And so she was like, fine, I'll go over there. The one with the tongue ring will do it.
I was going to say, do you want to know who...
You want to know who fucks?
The weirdos.
The unpopular kids fuck. That's who fucks.
Sexually active band geeks? Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, it does end in Edie throwing Martha's ashes on Susan.
Edie, I burned your house down. Huh? Can you ever forgive me?
Because she does admit it to her. Okay, and here's the thing, too, is, like, Susan she feels true remorse about it. She feels really badly.
And she has the whole time.
And she definitely has the whole time. She feels really badly. She feels very guilty. She does not feel good about it. And I do believe that a little bit the guilt is eating at her, but I do also think that it is mostly just selfish because she's looking for absolution. She's not really... she's doing nothing to make amends, really. She's, like, changed the tire and stuff, but that's not anything.
Well, and her and... The show has made it clear that her and Susan have a rivalry. Yeah. I don't know that I would go as far as to say they are rivals or nemesis, but they do have a rivalry. They do somewhat occupy a similar space.
Well, they're
in their social circle. They're single.
They're currently the only divorcees in the neighborhood.
They're both attractive. They're both semi-adjusted in their own ways. And the thing is...
Well, I think the major difference is that Edie initiated her divorce and Carl initiated Susan's divorce.
But I think Susan, it's like whether or not she does the right thing, I think her motive... And I agree with you. I do think she is remorseful, but it's almost as if what she needs is to stay superior to Edie.
Yeah.
And the only way for her to do that is by confessing, by doing the right thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're just not superior to her, though, because she never burned down your house. So, like,
that's why constantly I'm like, you know where you stand with Edie. Like, she does everything in the open.
Yeah. Okay, and here's the other thing, too. When they finally get back, after 90 miles of silence in the car...
18 months. Do you remember that from American Horror Story?
Yes. So after so long in silence, she again is like, I'm really very sorry. Like, I can't apologize enough or whatever.
Edie, please talk to me.
Fucking Nicholas Sheridan.
Yeah. And so she basically, Edie is like, Susan is like, I do whatever, call the cops, do whatever you need to do. I really want you to know I'm really sorry. And Edie is like, I'm not going to call the cops. All it's going to do is open the investigation back up. I still won't get my check and I still won't be able to build my house. And so she's like, oh, okay, well, thanks. And then she's just like, all I want is to get invited to your poker game. And that is getting off so easy.
And my favorite part is she was like, I might not come. Yeah. I don't know.
But I want to be invited.
And she even says it doesn't have to be every time.
Yeah.
Just sometimes you have to pretend. And there's a part of me where I'm like, I mean, I know she is a little bit of pain in the ass, but there's got to be a balance. Like a Samantha Jones, is that her name? Sex and the City. There's got to be a balance somewhere where what Edie's worth and what she cost line up. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm sorry. You're telling me that if I sat down and drank margaritas and started playing poker with Edie Britt, some Alexis Rose stories wouldn't start coming out of her mouth?
Don't you want like a weird, trampy, worldly friend?
Yes.
Like, yeah.
That's all I want.
So I think she's been very reasonable. Yeah. And actually, I do think that what Susan's ultimate punishment, which is being hosed down in the front yard like a bad dog.
Yeah.
Martha, I'm gonna miss you.
If all that has to happen is Edie has an open invitation to poker night and you get hosed off in the front of the yard, you got off easy for burning her house to cinders.
So, last thing that we do have to mention, though,
Mike.
I was going to say Mike's off the case.
Yeah.
His father, mob boss, whatever that man is.
Noah Taylor is what his name.
I was going to say, you love him, Bob.
Bob Gunton, yeah.
Isn't happy with...
So instead of speaking to him about it again, because we haven't seen him in episodes.
He drives presumably 90 miles.
At least.
To Eagle State.
And he breaks into Mike's house, takes all of his money and evidence, and also ransacks the whole house. Because Mike has not moved the money, because the first place he checks is his fucking pantry again.
You're right.
Unacceptable. And then what you said that was so funny is you were like, presumably Bob came in, ransacked it, found the money, took it, left to a second location, and then called Mike and left a voicemail on his answering machine.
Hey, Mike. As you can probably see by now, I took back my money. Pack up and move on with your life. Sorry for the mess.
So you could have left like a letter. Bob was here.
So Mike goes to the Independence Inn and speaks to Noah Taylor, and then essentially he just is like, "Oh, I don't know why I doubted you. You're back on the case." It's like,
we did get that he's.
I feel like there was a lot of bored men in this episode, just shaking things up. Ridiculous.
I haven't been a scoundrel in a few weeks.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane to me.
But we did find out that Bob is terminal. So
he does seem to have a tumor. And Deirdre, who is the woman they're looking for, is his daughter and presumably Mike's good friend at the least.
Well, and she also looks.
Although he did say his wife is dead. Is that part of his story correct?
Mike?
Was he married to Deirdre? We're not sure. He carries around a picture of them.
In which James Denton is noticeably younger, and Deirdre looks suspiciously enough like Sharon Lawrence to make it confusing as to what's happening. So she is a different person than Maisie Gibbons. But yeah, I think that that's a good place to.
This episode was better than the one before, like better written, but. Yeah. Oh, I mean, George shot his toe off because he went to went in to kiss Bree, and while he was holding a gun, he was like, she was helping him aim
and squeeze the trigger.
George! No! Oh, George! Oh my God! No!
To which she screamed and thrust him away.
I mean, she's hysterical. But yeah. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, good time. All right, well, we're going to go for now.
Yep.
And we'll be back.
Bye.